And of course the big news this week is the United States election. There are questions to be asked about the election of a candidate that has said the things he has about a large number of different subsections of society. The comments he has made about people of different ethnic origins, disabled people, women, the list goes on. The most telling poll isn't the ones that consistently suggested that the Clinton campaign would win a slight victory. The most interesting one I find, a couple of days before the election, a survey of a few thousand Americans suggested that 85% of them voted for "I just want it all to be over." It was not a very nice campaign. The candidates were not very popular. The campaigns they put forward were harshly negative. They consisted almost entirely, from what I could see, of criticising the personality and the actions of the opposing candidate, rather than any detail of the actual policies that they were putting forward. It wasn't even a criticising of the opposing candidate's policies, which would have been something. It's actually interesting, given that the majority of my international friends are Clinton supporters, or have become so after the so-called primary elections that put her forward as the candidate. I have virtually no idea what her policies actually were. I have a slight indication of what the Trump campaign's policies are, particularly in terms of his economic theories. It's literally just a campaign about who can insult the other person the best. Voter turnout was down to nearly 50%, which is, even in the United States, which has a very low voter turnout, that was one of the lowest they've seen in a long time. And of course you can point to the issues with the electoral system, which means that the majority of states don't get a say because it's pretty clear exactly which way they're going to vote. And it's only the areas that could change their mind one way or the other that have any real influence. That's an issue for their government to deal with if they choose to do so. I think, quite aside from the personalities of the candidates, the thing you have to look at right now is the policies actually put forward by the Trump campaign. There was a significant increase in the number of voters from lower income households voting for a Republican candidate, which has typically been seen as the party for higher income people. It was enough to swing a chunk of states across the middle of America that were considered to be safe to instead go for the opposing candidate. Effectively what he has said is that the leading politicians in America and the leading businessmen in America are working together to control the country. There is a transfer of money and power between them. There is a effort to maintain a particular status quo that gives major corporations a significant influence and significant freedom to do what they want, at the expense of the majority of the population, who are not getting as good a deal out of things as maybe they could have. And what Trump has done is he's basically come forward and said, look, I'm not a politician. I'm not part of this particular group that is running things. I can do things differently. I can put forward these economic policies that would benefit average, low and middle income American households. I don't know whether he's going to be entirely successful in doing so. I don't know whether he knows enough about the finances of an entire nation to be able to actually put those sorts of policies into action. But what he has basically done is said the current status quo is wrong. We need to change it. And behind the massive focus on particular little things he has said now and then that have been somewhat disagreeable, the actual fundamental basis of the policies he's put forward challenge the current control of the country by the leading politicians and major corporations. And that is something that obviously they are a little worried about. It's something to consider in terms of what it means for this country if we are seeing politics going that way, in terms of this idea that we dislike and distrust politicians enough that we would vote for basically anyone who can stand up and say, I'm not a politician, I will change things so that the politicians that are running it now don't get what they want for themselves. Instead, we can do things for everyone else. And then of course you have the issue of whether he will be successful. Now, what does that mean for this country? What sorts of political parties do we have that are somewhat similar to what he is offering? Well, we have UKIP. Of course we do. They are basically saying pretty much the same things as him. They are saying, well, we're just a bunch of normal people. We are trying to make a difference, whilst also making the same negative comments about certain sections of society that they dislike or disapprove of. And of course they have been increasingly successful over the last few years. We also have the Labour Party, which is able to say, or at least parts of it are able to say, well, we disagree with the current political status quo and we want to change it. Well, declined somewhat in the number of votes they're getting, they are gaining back support as well. There's a shift in the Labour voters from people that used to vote for them to the new people that are voting for them now that previously weren't voting at all. And of course, we'll have to wait and see what happens next election. It's still a good few years off. Do I think he could be a good president? I have literally no idea. I barely know anything about him. I've seen little bits and pieces on the media, mostly spun one way or the other, usually against him, by people who are trying to get votes for the opposing candidate. Within his own party, he wasn't their first choice for a candidate for the presidency. They had a whole list of other candidates that they put forward, and it was only the popular vote that swung such that they had to back him as president rather than anyone who had more politically in common with what the party has traditionally stood for. What that means is that key figures within the Republican Party may well oppose many of his policies and may make an effort to see that they don't get put forwards. This could result in him not being able to do many of the things that he has claimed he is going to do, and therefore lose significant numbers of votes coming up to the next election, which could have an impact on the candidate that the Democrat Party can put forwards if they believe that the Republicans are going to suffer a sharp drop in voter turnout after the current presidency. But of course this is all just speculation. It still remains to be seen, and one thing is for sure, it's going to be an interesting few years to see what happens and where we go from here.